Hey there, Aquarius. Welcome to your reading for the week of April 13th. You have this Taurus card says Perseverance on it. It says, remember, slow and steady wins the race. Awaken your inner bull to give you patience. You have a stag spirit, says you're meant for great things. Trust in all that you have to offer. There you go, Aquarius. I think you do need to do that. And, really believe in yourself. I think a lot of the themes that have been coming up for you for a while, Aquarius, have been about you kind of like taking the lead on things, or you being the one to get credit for the work that you're doing, which I think is important for Aquarius as well. But again, obviously you're going to have to believe in yourself to make that happen. You start with the Ace of Wands, the Page of Pentacles, and the Six of Swords. I feel like this is like a new interest or something here, Aquarius, that's kind of like coming in for you. And I'm not talking about a person either. I think this could be something new that you are like thinking about learning about, like a new opportunity with the Ace of Pentacles also showing up here. But the Ace of Wands, is my favorite card in the tarot. The reason I say that is because sometimes I think the Ace of Wands is just that one thing we need to get motivated. It's kind of like that spark of hope or that spark of inspiration. But it can definitely represent something that you are kind of becoming attracted to. Again, not from like a relationship standpoint. It could be, but this could just be an interest that you're interested in. And that's kind of like what I feel for you here, Aquarius, with the Ace of Wands, is that you're discovering something new or a new area of study in your life, and whatever it is, I feel it'll be very, very good for you. You have the Magician, Ace of Pentacles, you have the Nine of Cups. It could be something that leads to a lot more fulfillment in your life. I kind of do feel like fulfillment is important for you at this time, but like from a different perspective. We're not, sure, Nine of Cups can be wish fulfillment, but I think this is more just like general life fulfillment, like, holistic, where everything in your life is kind of like working together. And I feel like that's what you're being inspired to create. You have the Page of Pentacles, which could be like good news coming in for you. He is the card of studiousness as well, so definitely learning something new, and it could be about a new interest with the Ace of Wands. And so if you're developing a new interest, I would just study it. I would learn about it in any way that you possibly can. The other thing I will say is that, with the Magician, he's pointing down to the Knight of Wands. And so, the Magician in a reading tells us like what we should do. And I feel like you need to explore all the ways that you can do something. So if you're developing like a new interest, like a new hobby, or a new business idea, or a new job idea, the Magician, he says there are, he has mastery over all these suits. Like there are different ways you can approach what you're going to be working on. And so he wants you to try all the things and see where you fit best. We'll talk more about that in a minute. You have the Six of Swords. It's like the middle of April. Even in the last set of readings I did, the bonus reading for April, it just seemed like the middle of April would be a big improvement for people. This week on the 17th, we have the new moon in Aries, and you have the Page of Pentacles, which is a great card for starting things, and so is the Ace of Wands. So if you're thinking about moving on from something that no longer serves you and starting something new, then I think this would be a very good time to do it. I also feel like some of you, it's like you could be starting your own version of something. Like, and what I mean by that, Aquarius, as I was saying that, I realized that sounded dumb, but it's like, if you're working with a group of people on a project, you could just be deciding to do it on your own, right? Or if you currently, work with people on something, that's what you could be moving on from. I think a lot of people this month are going to be moving on from things in general. Uranus going to Gemini at the end of the month is a major change. And, I think this is the second time that Uranus will move into Gemini. It already entered in once, and then it retrograded out. And now it's entering back in to stay. So, I think it is a big time for a change. With the Ace of Wands here, you have the Two of Pentacles. Two of Pentacles, like work hard, play hard, of course, which I do think it's going to be a very busy week. We have, every planet and its mother basically is in Aries. We also have the new moon in Aries. So, very much a kind of like a very busy work week for people. And you could be working on all sorts of stuff. I mean, even if you're retired, again, it doesn't matter. You could be working in your backyard or something like that. So Two of Pentacles wants you to balance the energy and wants you to create that balance, and it wants you to make sure that you're not burning yourself out, of course. Two of Pentacles can also be about doing too much. Definitely, Aries energy is one thing at a time. And so we want to stick to one thing at a time. We don't want to be spinning plates, doing 900 things at once. That's a great way to get nothing done, basically. The other thing is that Aries being the first house in astrology, and I'm not talking about your first house, I'm talking about in general. Aries is the first house. And Aries energy, I think something people forget about it is that it can be very much like a renewal type of energy where we can, not necessarily rebirth something, but we can renew something, or, kind of bring it, add new life to a project we've been working on, or, something that we're doing. And you have the Ace of Wands. So the Ace of Wands can kind of represent like reigniting the fire about something in your life. So you could be becoming interested in something again, like an old interest. You could be rebirthing like a project, kind of. And as long as you stick to that one thing, I think it'll be great for you, Aquarius. Next, with the Page of Pentacles, you have the Nine of Swords. Nine of Swords is like a never-ending nightmare, and so if there, but you do have the Six of Swords, which would be about moving on from a never-ending nightmare. So if you have something in your life that is a never-ending nightmare, might be time to move on from that thing, or to let that thing go. With the Six of Swords, you have the Lovers. Could be a little bit of love again. This month is pretty good for love. I mean, I think the next several months are good for love, so if you want it, I would definitely put yourself out there for sure. Right next to the Lovers, we have the King of Swords. So you could be attracting someone who's like older than you, very mature, hardworking, disciplined. And the thing about the King of Swords is that they can be a little bit reserved. So, if you're looking for love, it might be a person who's like a little bit quiet. Next, in the area of what's coming in for you, you have this Voyage card and this Openness card. Yeah, I would be open to new adventures, especially with the Magician pointing to the Knight of Wands. As I say all the time now, I think everybody's going to get adventurous cards over the coming years. We have Uranus and Gemini. The opposite of Gemini is Sagittarius. The worst thing you can do is come up with an idea and do nothing with it with Uranus and Gemini. The best thing you can do is to go on the adventure. Again, we have to work with both energies, right? Gemini and Sagittarius, not just Gemini energy. So, that is the adventure voyage part of that energy. I also think Uranus and Gemini is extremely unconventional, and it's rebellion, it's revolt, revolution, those words. But on a personal level, I think that we should be focusing more on unconventional solutions, or just doing things in a different way. And I would be open to that with this open card. You have the Nine of Cups, the Magician, and the King of Swords. Nine of Cups is all about fulfillment. I feel like this is what you're going for in life, like total fulfillment. This is not like a wish. Not in this reading, I don't feel. I mean, it could be, there could be wishes that are part of your idea of like holistic, truly being fulfilled. And I feel like this card is trying to get you to be fulfilled right now, even if you aren't. And so, that might mean that you have to like visualize what your fulfillment would be and act as if you're already living in fulfillment. But, I do feel like something is coming in for you here. He's waiting to have a feast is the story of the card. He looks chubby and he's about to have a feast. And the story of the card is that he's chubby because he's had a feast before. And, that part of the card is what is meant to remind us to match the energy of what we want before we have it. But at the same time, I do feel it's like there is a feast coming in for you, Aquarius. You have the Magician, probably your most important card here. I think there are so many ways you can, approach something that you are thinking about doing with your life. But it's almost like the reading is encouraging you to do that. It's like saying that you don't have to do things like in the traditional way. I don't really have any good, I don't know what I'm getting at here, really, Aquarius, other than it's like, there are jobs out there where it's like, you could do the job, right? Which would kind of be like maybe the wands that he has in front of him. But there are also other ways that you could do the same thing, like with the swords. It's like you could become a researcher about whatever job you have. Like it's the same thing, but a different approach. Or who knows? Maybe you could become an investor with the pentacles here, and you could invest in the type of job that you are interested in, right? And so it's like there are different ways that you can do what you're thinking, and I would really think about it with this card. I think about YouTube as well. It's like, there are so many people that had a certain job and now they're YouTubers. It's like they take their knowledge and they apply it to something else. And I'm not saying you have to start a YouTube channel, but what I would say is, if there's another way that you can use your knowledge and wisdom, which we have right here, King of Swords, that could be very valuable and, very helpful. It's almost like maybe that's what this is asking. It's like saying there's more value to extract from what you do, but you just have to think about how you can extract more value from the thing that you're doing. And that's what I would do with the King of Swords. I think it's a great time for you to do that, Aquarius, and I definitely would. King of Swords could also just be you showing up here in the reading. So whenever you show up as yourself, puts you in a position of power and strength and allows you to get what you want from the reading. So, I feel pretty good about that in general. With the Nine of Cups, you have the Queen of Pentacles, which we start here and end with the Queen of Pentacles. Queen of Pentacles is resourcefulness. Yeah, we have to be resourceful. We have to be like MacGyver in life. It's like we have to put things together with like shoelaces and bubble gum, maybe. Especially if you're starting something new. It's like you might not have everything that you need, but it's like maybe you could get pretty close to creating something that you need, right, to start that business or to, start that relationship or whatever it is that you're thinking about starting here. It's like you might have to put it together, a little imperfectly right now until you get going. And, I would definitely encourage you to start. With the Magician, you have the Nine of Wands. Nine of Wands is the Wounded Warrior, and he's holding on to one wand, and so he's about to try something again. And that is the whole point of the card, is that he's not giving up. I think it's interesting that we have one wand, one wand, one wand with the Knight of Wands as well. And so it's almost like you are, grabbing your wand and getting on your horse and taking off here. It's like you're holding on to an inspiration, or you're holding on to something that motivates you. The wands, should be, especially the Ace of Wands, should be something exciting, something that could be potentially fulfilling. And I feel like this is saying you're giving something, it's almost like you're giving something one last shot is kind of what I feel here. Something that you want to create or something you want to build. With the King of Swords, you have the Seven of Cups. I think you get the Seven of Cups with me a lot. I'm not sure. But I don't know. Seven of Cups kind of comes up a lot right now anyway. We had Neptune and Pisces for a long time. And I think the Seven of Cups is very Neptune and Pisces. Even though Neptune is in Aries now this year, it doesn't matter. It takes a long time for Neptune to start moving forward. It's barely moved into Aries. So, I think we could still be feeling that Neptune and Pisces, which we can have a dream like he does, but we can also just think about it too much. He's thinking about the good things and bad things that could happen. There are good things and bad things in these cups. But the trick with the card is he needs to find out. I always say the Seven of Cups says to me that we should not cheat ourselves out of something that could be really good for us. And so, if you've been dreaming about an opportunity or doing something in your life, I would just do it so that you can, be successful. Next, in the area of messages from your future self, you have this Believe in the Impossible, which is basically the same thing as You Are Meant for Great Things, Trust in All That You Have to Offer, your first card. You have this card that says Take Time to Breathe Out. Yeah, I think definitely with all the Aries energy, we should all be taking a minute to breathe, taking a minute to recharge our batteries, not rushing too much, not like forcing things to happen. So just take the time. You have the Five of Cups, the Ace of Pentacles, and the Knight of Wands. Five of Cups can be like past disappointment. He's disappointed because he no longer, he lost his taste for wine. And he's sad because something that once made him happy no longer brings him happiness. And the whole point of the Five of Cups is to practice gratitude for what you do have. And then you get this bridge and this castle when you practice gratitude. It's also, about finding new things to enjoy in life, finding new things that motivate you. It's like I'm sure you've all heard, many successful people have said that, like, when they finally make it and they finally get that car or they get that thing that they always wanted, it doesn't make them happy, right? And so I don't necessarily, this is not a bug. This is like a bug or not a feature or something like that is what I feel like saying. Or this is not a bug, it's a feature, right? And so I think this is about, finding true happiness for you, Aquarius, and like finding those things that, really feed your soul with that Nine of Cups. Again, Nine of Cups is true fulfillment. It's not the car, the house, the kids, the whatever. It's about, getting to that fulfilled place first. And then you'll attract, like the things that will also, make those experiences better. So, that's what I would think about there. You have the Ace of Pentacles. I dropped it. Ace of Pentacles, like a big opportunity that you need to nurture. I like the Ace of Pentacles, but I always say that, it's a good card, but I feel that it's also kind of a challenge, not a bad challenge. Ace of Pentacles is a challenge because it just represents potential. It's definitely a challenge with the Seven of Cups. It's like with the Seven of Cups, we can see the potential that exists above our heads, but we also could be saying, well, that's just potential. That means nothing. Potential means what you put into something is what you're going to get out of it. So I think if you're getting an opportunity at this time, that you should take it and make sure to run with it. Make sure that you're seeing it through to the end. Next, you have the Knight of Wands. Knight of Wands, again, wants you to go on the adventure. I think everybody's been getting the Knight of Wands lately. We really have to practice, like, non-attachment to outcome. One thing I will say for you air signs, Uranus and Gemini, with Uranus and Gemini, it's like how we start is not how we're going to finish, probably. We'll probably still get to the finish line if we keep going. It's just going to look different than what we thought. So we have to follow our inspirations. I think if we're too focused on a very specific outcome and we're too attached to it, then we're basically going to make our lives harder than it needs to be. It's like Gemini might be like saying to you, hey, there's like a way that's 10 times easier to do this, but you have to let go. And that's kind of the feeling I get on this Knight of Wands. Also, Aquarius, make sure to leave a comment. Really helps me out. With the Five of Cups, you have the Four of Swords. Yeah, like that. You have that card that says take time to breathe out. So Four of Swords, Aries, tons of Aries energy this week. And, obviously Aries energy is very active. We can burn out very quickly. It can also just be a lot of energy in general. We could just be feeling super energetic. So we need to make sure to balance the energy and, rest, relax, recover, meditate, do other things. With the Ace of Pentacles, you have the Knight of Swords. I don't know. I feel like you're going to charge towards this opportunity. So if you are getting an opportunity, you're probably going to grab onto it and charge forward. I feel pretty good about this Knight of Swords. Knight of Swords is one of those cards I go back and forth on. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. Just depending on how I feel. And I feel like you are grabbing on to this opportunity here and that you're going to rush forward. One thing I will say, though, is that Seven of Cups, Knight of Swords, this would be like no assumptions. The Knight of Swords, he can jump to a conclusion too quickly, and he doesn't think things through. So, again, if you get an opportunity and if you're like, I don't know, I don't need that. I'm not telling you have to take it, but I would give it a second look, right? With the Knight of Wands, you have the Eight of Cups. Eight of Cups is walking away from things that no longer serve you. Again, I think this reading is very simple. I think you're looking for holistic fulfillment, I'll call it. Eight of Cups is not fulfillment. He is walking away from these Eight Cups because something is missing. And he doesn't know if he's going to find fulfillment or not, but he's not willing to settle. That's the important part. And so I think as long as you focus on not settling for less than you deserve, you will be perfectly fine. Next, in the area of the good stuff, you have this Fifth House card. It says passion. This whole entire reading's about passion with that Ace of Wands. You have this Chiron card. It says heal on it. Yeah, great time for healing. The whole summer, I've been telling people this. We had that Virgo eclipse in March. And I think between then and the end of August, when we have the next eclipse, is a great time to heal. Again, eclipses last for 6 months until the next eclipse. So I would be taking time to heal, eliminate anything toxic from your life, bad habits, bad things. And if you do that, good things will happen. You have the Page of Swords, the Four of Swords, and the Queen of Pentacles. I do get a weird feeling on this Page of Swords that it is a person. So if you're looking for love, there might be a person, whether you realize it or not, who's interested in you. I think that, just intuitively, I feel like you do know that this person, like, I don't know, I feel like some of you have if you have a person on your mind where you're like, I can't tell if this person's interested, they are, just so you know. But I would also say Page of Swords is about being a detective. I think one of the big things with Pluto in your sign is getting the evidence on things. But we also have to trust evidence very quickly, I believe. So we have to, when we meet new people, we have to, look at the evidence and say, is this person, and I think we really have to pay attention. We have to say, is this person, giving off good evidence or bad evidence? And we need to trust it. Same thing if you've been working on something for a long time, which I feel like some of you have. And for some of you, I'm not saying it's a waste of time, but, again, I think you need to look at the results you're getting, especially, I've been saying to you for months, especially with group projects. If you're working with other people, there's something about the astrology right now for Aquarius where I think you really need to look and, if everything is the same, if whatever you've been doing isn't growing, then, it might be time to go do your own thing. It might be time to leave. It might be time to focus on things that are actually working in your life, and that's what I would do there. You have the Four Swords. Four Swords like resting, relaxing, recovering. He is also hoping and praying for a blessing. There's a person blessing another person in that stained glass window there. So there could be blessings coming in for you, Aquarius, but, I think you've been asking and haven't been receiving, but I also think that, you just it's like you were waiting for the energy to catch up, and now I think that there could be some blessings coming in. You have the Queen of Pentacles. Queen of Pentacles wants you to be resourceful, but in the good stuff, she's all about multiplication. We have this rabbit right here. The rabbits can be fertility, abundance. They can be fear and anxiety. They can also be multiplication because rabbits multiply very quickly. And again, I think with that Page of Swords, you need to look at the evidence on like what you are putting the most amount of effort into in your life. And I feel like you need to like really make sure that the things you do multiply. Again, it's like sometimes I think even something like, sometimes, I don't know, I've worked on things in the past where maybe I only spend like 2 hours on the thing like per week. But really those things weren't working and they probably stole more than 2 hours, even though it was only 2 hours, because it's like, maybe whatever I was doing made me super tired, which stole time from whatever I was doing for the rest of the day or whatever. Right. And so it's almost like, this reading is also saying that you should be protective of your fulfillment and that you should also look at side effects, right? If you're spending time with a person, maybe it's only an hour a week, but maybe you feel drained for like 10 hours. I would be really looking at those side effects. She's coming up in the good stuff. So, correcting that could really, give you more energy. With the Page of Swords, you have the Hermit. I don't know, this is like a door that needs to be opened is what's popping into my head. It's like you could be interested in a person who's in Hermit mode. Maybe you've been in Hermit mode, but I think you need to get clarity. Again, this is only going to be for like a few of you, I feel, where you're like interested in a person. And it's like, but I feel like, again, I'm not calling you out here, Aquarius, but it's like, I feel like you haven't really done anything here. It's like, I've done readings in the past where, people have said to me, I'm interested in this person. And, I dropped my cup in front of them and they didn't do anything about it. So they're not interested. I'm like, that means nothing. You have to like open your mouth, talk to the person, try flirting, stuff like that. With the Four Swords, you have the Nine of Cups. There you go. Like I said, this whole entire reading is simply about you focusing on your own fulfillment, Aquarius, which is exactly probably what you should be doing. And, really everything comes from that. It's like the more focused you are on your fulfillment, the better. With the Queen of Pentacles, you have the Five of Wands. Five of Wands can be conflict and competition, and Five of Wands, but it's coming up in the good stuff. It is definitely time for Aquarius to stand out from the competition. Again, especially being an air sign, I think that you have a great opportunity to find evidence that will help you stand out from the competition. So if there's competition in work or business or whatever, that's what I would do. You have this valley. It says deep personal strength and peace that assures success. Definitely with the Four of Swords twice, I think the more at peace, like the more settled you are, like the more settled your soul is, the better. And I feel there are a lot of things you could be doing to make that happen. Like, again, getting out of situations that are stealing your energy, looking out for side effects from the things that you're doing, focusing on your own fulfillment, everything. You have this needle and thread. It says a sincere wish is granted. There you go. You do have the Nine of Cups twice, so definitely could be some sort of wish or dream come true. You have this desk. It says pay attention to your work. I'm not worried about this at all. I think you are. All this Aries energy, of course you are. You have this dark man. It says dealing with a relationship with a man with dark complexion or hair. You have this camel. It says persevere and you will overcome problems. Yeah, we talked about this with the Nine of Wands, the Ace of Wands, Nine of Wands, Knight of Wands as well, that it's like you are holding on to that wand, and you need to, persevere and keep pushing on like one thing. You have this casket. It says someone going out of your life or the end of a situation. I do think everybody's going to be ending something this week. Pretty much everyone has had the death card. You don't, but you have this, which is might as well be the death card, right? Or going through a transformation. So we're in a very transformative time, especially by the end of April when Uranus finally moves into Gemini. That's kind of like the last planet we're waiting for to shift sign. So yes. But this looks very good, Aquarius. I like it. So thank you for being here. Make sure to like, leave a comment, and definitely enjoy your week.